Welcome to Check Reality That. Strike that. Reverse it. Like this famous man. Tricky, huh? This famous man said. Welcome to Reality Check. So here we are. Last show. No, not the last show of June. Because probably going to have to do a special soccer show once the brackets are out. But tonight we're going to talk about toilet water. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court. We're going to talk about bans, members only, and more. Kind of sounds like a bad AD show. What else can I say about that? So I'll start with this. If you want no border wall, then you're for cartels. It's just plain and simple. The cartels want to have drug runners or victims/mules. Cartels not only profit on the drugs they make from, but also the $6,000 to $12,000 they usually get per person, the coyotes, better known as, when they bring the people over the border. Then in some cases they even make more, from the rape to holding loved ones for hostage for more money. All the open border does is encourage this type of behavior. So why does Mexico let people walk right through their country if they're headed illegally to America? Why is Mexico in bed with the cartels? I mean, they pretty much aid and abet this behavior. They're not doing what it takes to stop them. They could ask the American military to step in and help them out if they need to stop this cartel. But they don't seem to either have the energy or the want. Half of them are in bed with the cartels from the government up. Why can't America stand behind the good people of Mexico and rid them of the cartels? Mexicans and Americans both deserve better. And just keeping this border unchecked, it's just, almost an issuance of a crime. So that being now tonight, I gotta tell you, we all know it's always California, New York, and one bad story from each. But tonight, I gotta say that New York actually stepped up a notch and put an opening salvo on the election season and slapped California right now. And now, will California be able to catch up? Will they be able to? Now, there was a race tonight. These are just primaries, but Representative Joe Crowley, who's a 14 term. No, I'm sorry. He's in the 14th congressional district, but he's like he's the fourth most powerful Democrat in the House. They had thought that one would replace Nancy Pelosi, and so I think he's a 10 term. And he lost in a blowout in the primaries, 58%, 42, to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Amazing. So here it is, almost reminiscent of, remember when Eric Cantor got beat down by a Tea Party member? And that was, of course, a party, Republican Party, moving in the right direction. But it is amazing that this girl is kind of like almost pretty much a Bernie Sanders, you could say. And I mean, she is a communist through and through. And New York sent the message that communism will do here. California, catch up to us. You only like left-wing nuts. We like even beyond left-wing nuts. So you had this girl. She had Medicare for all, universal job guarantees, fully funded public schools and universities, paid family and sick leave, housing as a human right, justice system reform, immigration justice, infrastructure overall, clean campaign finance, and an economy of peace. So what does all this mean? It means you'll show up anywhere and somebody else is going to pay for it. Yeah, the communities are going to get living wage. So I guess you could stay home, do nothing, and get paid for it. Tax Wall Street to death. You know, just yeah, everybody's going to live in a nice place. No war on drugs. Demilitarize the police and abolish for-profit incarceration, which I don't mind abolishing for-profit incarceration. I think the government, that's one of the few things they should handle. Protect dreamers and simplify paths to citizenship and abolish ICE, because we wouldn't want anybody enforcing laws. I mean, invest in 100% renewable green industry, because we know how much money called for green industry lost, so we'll just throw them more. You mean more like invest in people that donated to my campaign? I think Barack Obama did this. And so it's end the corrupting influence of corporate finance in public elections. Now, I'd like to do that. I personally think that each candidate for each position should get a budget, the same budget as the person running against them, and that's all they have. And how they use it's their business, and it'll pretty much be whoever works hard or budgets smarter. And if you run out of money or you spend on 2 commercials because they're prime time, and then that's all you got, too bad for you, I'm sorry to say. Well, not too much else we can say about the New York 14 and them voting in a communist, Democrat, socialist. What else can you say about that? Not much else. But so it begins. So, big week in the news. I mean, there's so many things to address. There's the Sarah Sanders, got kicked in a restaurant. I mean, Pam Bondi, guys are spitting in her face, cursing at her when she was going to see a movie, on and on and on. And so, I mean, my feelings on the restaurant, personally, if they don't want to serve her, they don't have to. It's their business. And I believe that in every business sense. Let me tell you, a lot of these things police themselves. If you decide you're running a business and you don't want to serve a certain type of people, that's your business. You should be able to do that. Your community will decide whether that's good business or not, because if they're not happy with it, they won't come to your restaurant and you'll be out of business. So in general, most business people are there to make money, unless you're on an NBC or ABC or CBS or MSNBC or these days, but other business people are actually there to make money, and they, on hand, will not discriminate against people, and they'll let as many people into their business as they can get and beg more people to come. So, again, I always think that it is the right of a business to turn down people if they want to. That's their business. But it is much ridiculous in the scam as they shouldn't have sat her in the first place. And then the fact that which is funny because her in-laws, Sarah Sanders' in-laws, are Democrats through and through, and they were harassing them, so they didn't even talk to the people to even know what they believe. They just pegged them as such. And actually, Sarah Sanders and her husband left to go home because they weren't happy, and her in-laws and the rest of their group actually went to another restaurant to eat, and the lady of the red hand followed them towards this other restaurant and was still harassing them, and that's where you went over the line. It's your business. That as they see fit. If they're not happy with that, business will be worse for you. That's on you, your responsibility, your fault, and you're damaging your own product. But the fact that you're harassing people after the fact, after they got up, left, no problems for you, left, and you're still harassing them and talking. These are people that are on their own time. So you don't have the right to just harass them like that. They're on their own time. Who cares who they work for? Whether it's ICE agents and we're giving out people's personal, addresses. They're people doing their job. You might not like their job. That's too bad for you. Get people complaining about ICE did anything close to what ICE does for people. they might be able to talk. Otherwise, they're just blowing hot air out of both holes. You know, you look around at Dice agents, how many of them come out of their pocket to help these kids out? They buy stuff. They treat these people with nice and with respect. And are there people that don't? Are there people that are nasty? Absolutely. In every facet of life, there are people that are nasty, whether it's from police to firefighters to teachers to counselors to somebody who works in your grocery store. There's a certain group of them that are nasty, but the majority of people are really nice and give you the shirt off their back. And so to be treating these ICE officers like that, to be giving out their home addresses and attack them when they're not even working on their own time, it's not a debate. It's really violence. You know, these people have kids. You're scaring their kids. You're, you know, attacking their spouse. It's absurd. To be spitting in a woman's face, Pam Bondi, who, you know, it's amazingly hypocritical and just disrespectful. You have opinions, fine, voice them. There are places and times to do that. But, you know, to attack people, and then, I mean, it goes further, you know. Here it is. You have everybody upset about what Roseanne said, and I understand that. She said something that wasn't very nice. But it was to another adult, and they can have that conversation. And, you know, her bosses want to fire her. I have no problem with that. That's their business. It's their company, like I said. But then you have someone like Peter Fonda come out, and what does he do? Right? Talks about molestation of Trump's son Barron. I mean, just disgusting filth. Obviously a sick mind. Obviously someone who probably fantasizes about that type of stuff with kids. Not his first run-in with his mouth, Peter Fonda. And where was the condemnation? Where was the condemnation from Maxine Waters? Where was the condemnation from Pelosi or Chuck U. Schumer? Or where was Barack Obama coming out, since he likes to be heard? And then, worse than that, and obviously we knew none of the media clowns, you know, Anderson, Blooper, and, you know, the Wolf Spritzer, none of them were going to say anything. We knew that. That was obvious. But where was the condemnation of Peter Fonda from Mitch McConnell Gobbler, Paul Ryan? Where are these guys? They were silent like crickets. You know what? All these people weighed in about what Roseanne Barr said, something that was nasty about another adult, but not even close to what Peter Fonda said, which was up way more. Not a word. Everybody's silent. As a matter of fact, Peter Fonda's still going to get to make this film. You can go pay $12 or $13 to go see Peter Fonda's next film. Yay! And then, of course, more of the left has descended, right? Becoming unhinged with their quote-unquote leader, Mrs. Impeach 45, Maxine Waters, the California rep, whose only goal in life is to incite leftists. And she basically said, surround these people that work for Trump's administration, surround them at gas stations, let them know if you see them in a department store, create a crowd, push back on them, tell them they're not welcome here anymore. You know, pretty much get in their face. And even some of the people had to rebuke what she said, even those that were half-hearted. You know, you hear anything that Chuck U says, Chuck U. Schumer, and it's a constant, like, he'll tell you, anybody who says, Trump says something, he's calling it out. How could you do that? The fake crying. There's Schumer. Never shy on words or sounds. And then here it is, Chuck Schumer not once could he say Maxine Waters. He talked about, we don't want violence and we don't think that's right, at the bare minimum, to pretend he said something. But at the end of the day, he really said nothing. And same thing with Nancy Pelosi. And same thing, I didn't hear that other flatbag, the one that doesn't know Mars from anything, Frederica. I didn't hear any of these people say, wow, we don't agree with Trump. We will fight in the political arena wherever. But to say something like that, to attack his administration and people who, they're just trying to make a living after you get through the first few, the rest of them are just people trying to make a living. It's pretty disgusting. And to call for acts, she did. She called for violence. She could say, I never stated violence applied. When you're saying get up in someone's face on their personal time, surround them at a grocery store, surround them. It's one thing, get up in their face when they're on the floor talking about something, at the local political convention or, at the press conference. But when you're talking on their private times, when you're talking about anybody at the administration, to get up in their face, surround them. Who cares if they're holding their little baby in their hands? Who cares? Just get up. Who cares if they're walking their grandmother across the street? Surround them. No, she was inciting violence. And she can, as she wants. Here's somebody who, I call her Toilet Waters because that's what it is. She's the dirty churning, and it's splashing water everywhere so you don't see how dirty it is because you're only seeing the droplets. Because here's somebody in Maxine Waters who, check out her past, has a huge history of improprieties. And the biggest one is her husband and the banks and how it was a corrupt bank to begin with, and the government designated it so, and somehow they pushed through loans, government loans, for the bank that he owned part of. And a conflict of interest, insider trading, right? You think Martha Stewart went to jail for what? Yeah, this was 10 times worse. And nothing. Where was James Comey on that, right? But, so today we saw very interesting investigative journalist Laura Loomer track down Dirty Waters in the halls of Congress and ask her a series of questions regarding her call to mob action. And of course, Waters is never in the mood to answer questions. She only has her yelling points. And she was kind of shaking a paper. She kept on telling Laura Loomer that she would meet her in private, but that wouldn't happen. And she tried to bat away Laura Loomer's camera, covered up with a sheet of paper. And then, very interesting, all Loomer was asking is, where are conservatives allowed to go in D.C.? Where can a conservative eat at a restaurant? Or are they all barred from restaurants? Another interesting thing was, if you watch this video, they were getting into some elevator, and everybody started screaming, members only, members only, members only. Like, what, did I need a bad 80s jacket to get in that elevator? Or not me, I guess I should say Laura Loomer. Did she need a bad 80s jacket to get into the elevator? No. Was it for congressional members, they say? I don't think really almost anything at that point should be off limits, to be honest, unless it's presidential stuff or meetings they're having. But let me tell you, we pay for all that stuff. We should have rights to be there. Unless you're promoting violence, which that would be Maxine Dirty Waters promoting violence, and she should not be allowed to be there. But everybody else is a citizen, as a law-abiding citizen, we have the right to be there. It's our house, our Congress. We all paid for it with our tax law, Maxine Toilet Waters has been in office for like 27 years, and her district is no better than when she was elected. But her bank account, let me tell you, that one's millions of times better. Like most of these people, they make so much money. On $130,000 a year salary, they made about $1 billion in 10 years. It's amazing math. I wish some of them could teach me it. I would love it. It would be great because it's amazing how they do that. But they're all honest people, right? Toilet Waters. So, enough of Toilet Waters. Enough of Peter Fonda. We got all that out of the way. So we had the Supreme Courts. They upheld today, 5-4, Trump's travel ban. Now, of course, one of the biggest dissenters is Justice Sotomayor, an Obama plant. And, she just went on today that she wasn't happy with the court's majority, led by Chief Justice John Roberts. She was saying they blindly accepted the government's misguided invitation to set aside problematic comments Trump made before and after taking office. The comments are irrelevant. I mean, to be honest, it's what's in the law. And you could say his comments were this and that, and you can push the truth all you want. At the end of the day, it wasn't a policy that called for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the U.S. It was these countries which Obama had banned from coming into America. One's on designated terrorist lists. I mean, that's pretty much it. It's not about perception. It's not about your opinion, Sotomayor. It is about the facts of the law. And there were huge countries, which are Muslim, that weren't banned because they have good behavior, haven't had much of a terrorist problem. So it shows you not all Muslims are banned. It's just people. And the list has changed as countries got in and out of problems. And it will always be a fluid list. If we see there's a problem from coming somewhere, we want to stop it. It's just like any normal problem you'd have in your house. If water was leaking in your basement from your faucet down there, you would turn that one off and use another one and then get that one fixed. When it's fixed, then you go back to using water in your basement. If it was on the second floor or the third floor, all the same thing. But here you have Sotomayor, again, with her reverse racism. God forbid anybody, tries to do what's right for America. I mean, pretty much she's voted against America any chance she has. And it's pretty sad for a Supreme Court. And then you had people bashing the Supreme Court today, saying they're wrong. And you know what? Can they be wrong? Sometimes they can. But in this case, they're not. These are the same things. It's constantly things that Obama done, nobody cared about when he did them, and now Trump does them, and now they're a problem. It just shows you're not realistic. It shows that, it's kind of like, you can put it in a sports metaphor. It's like, I'll take it for myself, it's like me being a Yankee fan, and if every guy in the Red Sox I say is a bum, and this guy's a cheater, and this guy's a bum, oh, this guy hit his wife, he shouldn't be playing baseball. And then my Yankees get some guy who beat his wife. Oh, no, well, that's different because he hit her sideways, or that was 5 years ago, or that was this and that. It's like you can't be making excuses. If you don't go for it on that team, then you don't want it on your team. If this person's a bum, then the same activity on your team, that's a bum. You're just playing for one team. That's what these people are. That's why they're frauds. You got to be realistic, and you got to hold your standards as high as you do for everybody else, that high, and if not higher for yourself. I mean, it's just as simple as that. That's the basic bottom line there. So, let's go on to something somewhat pleasant. Very pleasant, I like to watch it, the World Cup. So pretty much half of the groups, 4 of the groups have finished their group play. And there are still 2 more days with 4 games each to finish up the rest of the group play. So basically we had Group A, which I had picked before, and I will do at the end of this week, I think maybe Thursday night, we'll do a soccer show with the brackets and give predictions out. But as of right now, just kind of go over what's happened. Uruguay and Egypt were the 2 teams I picked, and Egypt was absolutely atrocious. Their top player was almost non-existent. Their coach was horrible. He had no game plan whatsoever. Ended up being Uruguay and Russia. Russia was surprising their first 2 games in Uruguay, 3-0. They won all their games. In Group B, it started out good with the Spain-Portugal 3-3 tie. Ronaldo, 3 goals in that game. Just very exciting games throughout that whole bracket. And Spain and Portugal are moving on. unfortunately, because of that poor call in the Portugal-Iran game, and I thought that one was not a handball because the guy headbutted it right to his arm. And they gave Iran the penalty shot, which tied it up. Now Portugal has a worse seed than Spain, so Spain finished one. In Group C, I had picked Denmark and France, and both France and Denmark had, qualified for the next round. Both teams, France, they don't scare me, to be honest. Like, they have a good team, they move the ball around, but they just don't seem to have enough people that put it in the net at the end of the day. Denmark played solid, they played competitive all their games. The two teams I had going was Croatia and Argentina, and I thought Croatia was the strongest team by far, and I thought Argentina would separate themselves from the rest of people. But Croatia dominated. They won all three games, even a meaningless game today. They still end up winning 2-1. And Iceland made a good showing. They played tough, and Nigeria played tough. They were almost in it, but at the end of the day, Argentina scored a late goal, beat Nigeria 2-1, and almost a hand out there with the handball again. Argentina snuck in, and so Croatia and Argentina. So it's good to see. I mean, they were two teams I picked, but for Argentina, it's good. We need the best players to be going to the next round. It'd be pretty sad if half these guys didn't make it. So we got the first few matchups, and I'll just say Uruguay versus Portugal, France versus Argentina, Spain versus Russia, and Croatia versus Denmark. All interesting games. I think all games are going to be pretty competitive in that level, and it'll be good games. And I will give my predictions on them Thursday once we get all of our World Cup brackets set. And we can do it, and hopefully that'll be fun. But the one thing, there's been some quality play. There have been a lot of stars there, a lot of people that are pretty cool, and teams that were nice to watch, like Peru finally winning today. Guerrero scoring that second goal for them. That was fun to watch. It's fun to watch their fans, how excited they were, just the passion. That's awesome. That's the high of it. The low of it is two things. Off the field, some of these people, just their remarks and their chants, and even today, Diego Maradona with the middle fingers. Just stuff that's, I know you get heated sometimes, but just, I don't know. It's just not good for the sport. And then on the field is the flopping. They have to do something about it. FIFA's got to do something about this flopping. If you continue to flop around in the soccer field, it's just got to be fouled. The refs got to just start ignoring it, and then maybe these people stop, and then the game can continue on. But I think they think they're getting the call, so these people are flopping around. You see people barely get touched. How many players, even in one day, in one game, are like laying down on the ground like they got shot? You've never seen such a thing. These guys look like they got shot, and they've died on the soccer field. And then all of a sudden the ref calls penalty or not, and then they get up, they're fine. And then you see other guys playing with their heads split open, blood running down the side of their face, and they're running around, no problem. The rest of these guys, they're flopping like fish out of water. The refs just got to ignore it and tell them, we will continue to play on, and if you get hurt, it's going to be your fault for faking it this much times. That'll make the soccer game more interesting. And then another thing, too, the referees really got it with the add-on time. It's just weird. It seems like they almost never want to go past 5 minutes. I think one time, I've seen one time was past 5 minutes of extra time. And you see these guys taking their time, laying around all the time. It's, just delaying so much of the game. The refs need to push them to speed that up or add on some more time and make them pay for it. But otherwise, the games have been so competitive and really good. It's been a lot of fun, just the passion of the countries. Have been really good as far as the World Cup. So now moving on. So and I'm sure it happens in every state, but I know from Arizona, because I've lived here for so long, Arizona gives out, and this is a very low estimate. Arizona gives out more than $1 million in cash every month that goes straight to illegal drugs. and I'm talking about illegal drugs, meth, crack, cocaine, high end. And then, besides that, I mean, we all know that's through the EBT cash. A lot of this money goes to that stuff. And they're not putting pressure on these people that get that stuff. They just shouldn't be giving out cash. If their rent needs to be paid, then they could straight up voucher that. Whatever, things they get in the store, there's cards for that straight on, and it should be limitation of what these people buy. But I don't even want to get into the whole food stamp, non-food stamp thing. What I see now is, the question I ask is, wouldn't we have more money in the schools if we didn't feed kids free lunch, free breakfast throughout the year? And I'm not talking the school year, I'm talking about in the summer. The expense of the food, the expense of the staff you have to have on hand, the schools have to be clean constantly, the electricity that has to be on with air conditioning and whatnot to leave a humane environment for these kids that you're inviting in for breakfast and lunch in the summer. There's tons of schools. There's tons of schools in this area that do this. Most of these people that would need that, their parents get food stamps and cash. And it should be their responsibility. And I hear that excuse that the parents aren't going to feed them. Well, we could spend this money on a few extra compliance officers, and they can check up on that and start arresting these people if they're not going to feed their kids. And if they're neglecting them that bad, then even with us giving them the few meals, that's not really going to help them have a good life, because there's going to be other things their parents skimp on or try to steal from these kids. Because if you won't feed your own kids when you're getting the money to do that, these kids are better off being adopted out to somebody who cares. I see kids all the time that I'd like to take and adopt. I didn't say take, but I'd love to say to them, here, can I just adopt your kid? Seriously, because you're not cutting it for them. It's just a poor parenting. It's just such a burden on society, poor parenting. From what happens in the way a lot of these kids turn out with poor parenting, broken homes, when you're a criminal, a lot of times, unfortunately, that dictates the future of your kid being a criminal. Sadly, it's just if that's what you know, that's what you see, if that's what you replicate. And if we can get rid of that waste of money that's in our schools with all this food for the summer and all that expenses that I talked about, and use that to actually educate the kids, we'd have so much money freed up. And then make these schools responsible for spending this money. They just got a bunch of money, and now they're talking about they need more money already. And they want this amount from this year and this budget. How many years ago? A decade ago? Arizona spent lots of money on schools because that's what they're saying they want to return to that budget. And yet, where were we? Ranking as states, Arizona was a 48 out of 50. Now, since Doug Ducey's become governor, we've slowly inched up. We got to 44, 43. We have some of the top high schools in the country are all in Arizona because of, now I'm not going to say just Doug Ducey, but in general, just some of the school systems and the ideas that he's let come in and been proactive with and not stood in the way of progress. Not said, oh no, we can only have public school here. Money is better spent on that than wasting on feeding people in the summer breakfast and lunch where these people are already being fed. All these programs do is overlap each other. You get WIC, you get food stamps, you get, now all your kids are getting free this in school, free that in school, you're getting discount rent, you're getting free SRP. There's food, you can call, 277 and get a list of food banks. You can, this number and that. There's, people are willing to help everywhere. If it's that desperate, then those people could find the help that way. But this is just a waste of taxpayer money again, a waste of our school money, a waste of what could be used better and spent wisely, and it's just grossly unfortunately grossly wasted. So we have it's really weird. So Trump signs an executive order and wants a permanent order passed to stop separating kids, which we already went over that last week. How if you go to any of the actual 25 ports, you can claim asylum. You don't get separated from your kids. It's when you come in illegal parts or illegal ways with coyotes and stuff, that's when you get separated. And most of those people didn't come with their parents, so they're not really getting separated. Their parents actually sent them here by themselves, which is insanity to say the least. Sending your kid with a coyote, you know who's going to take that money, maybe attack your kid, maybe use your kid as a drug running tool, when you can actually just find a way to get to a port. But I mean, Clinton passed a law in '96 separating kids from parents. Obama enforced it for 2 terms. Bush enforced it. And now all of a sudden we have such a frenzy over Trump, when all Trump's done is actually pulled the law back. It's a crazy society we live in, where the press is just almost not, I wouldn't even say delusional. I don't even know if it's, I think people are delusional from press. I think the press is knowingly lying. So speaking of laws passed, there are some interesting bills that Arizona was trying to pass this year. Very interesting. Minors can't get married. People under the age of 18, they wanted to pass a bill that people under the age of 18, they didn't want them to get married. If you're an emancipated minor, meaning you kind of got a divorce from your parents and you actually support yourself, then you could be 16 to get married. I'm all for it. To me, to be honest, I don't mind who marries who or what, as long as you keep away from the animals and the kids. But I don't think people should get married till they're 21, to be honest. You're just not mature enough to know. I mean, I would love to see what the divorce rate was. I guess I should have looked that up for the show. What the divorce rate of 18 people that get married before age 21 is. I'm not saying it can't work out, but I mean, if you know that's the one for you, and you're going to get married at age 19, then you can get married at age 20. It's not hindering anything that way, but having people get married before just creates a lot of bitterness and anger. It makes people stay together that really didn't want to for whatever financial reason or whatnot, when they could just been just dating that time and been done. There was a bill to require elementary schools to provide 2 recesses a day to students through 5th grade. I mean, most schools I know already do that. Another interesting bill that I've seen Arizona trying to pass this year: wearing a mask, wearing a disguise to a public event, including a civil protest, a political event, in order to obscure your identity and avoid detection would be a crime. Now, that could destroy the whole Antifa movement in one shot there, because then they have to show their pretty little faces, and they wouldn't like that. But I mean, to me, the minute you show up at a place disguised like that, you should just be arrested anyway, because you know you're up to no good. I mean, why are you hiding for unless you're up to no good, you know? It's like walking into a bank with a ski mask on. Chances are you're not there for any good reason. There was an SB 1010. They wanted to raise the minimum tobacco usage from 18 to 21, just like drinking. That one, I don't know. I personally think 18 to 21, you know, if you're telling kids they can go to the military at age 18, then they should be allowed to drink and smoke. Sorry. If you want to change all 3 ages to 21, I wouldn't have a problem with that. That's fair. But to have, hey, you can go die for us, but you can't smoke or drink, man, that's pretty lame. Here's another interesting one: unlicensed blowouts. Sounds more crazy than it is. About like you can't have parties without licenses now. This bill would allow people to wash, blow dry, and style hair without needing a cosmetology license. It would make it easier to hire people at popular dry bars. I thought a dry bar was a bar with no alcohol. So there they have a bill that would make it illegal to fraudulently misrepresent an animal as a service animal in a public place. It's a $250 fine. I actually thought that was already a law, but I guess I'm wrong on that. But I do know in that sense, that's why businesses ask you, is that a service dog or a service animal? Because if you say yes, and then your animal, they can't kick you out, they can't kick your animal out, which is fair if it really is a service animal, but they cannot kick you out. And then, so if your animal attacks a customer or somebody else there, then at least it's not the business owner's responsibility. They'll still get sued by it because they have the most money, which is sad, but it should be that person's responsibility. No dogs behind the wheel. Now this, I agree with 100%. Drives me crazy when I see this. This bill would prohibit drivers from having an animal on their lap in the car, including dogs, cats, reptiles, birds, and amphibians, and would be punishable by a $100 fine. Absolutely agree with that. How many times I see people driving with this dog, and it's one thing when it's a little chihuahua and stuff. I don't want to discriminate, but you got these big dogs. I mean, you got a German Shepherd sitting on your lap, and I see like they're looking around. They can't see around the dog. I mean, would you have your, kid on your lap sitting down there when you drive? No. It's absolutely ridiculous that you would do that, and you should be fined. Fined for your stupidity. Now, next law. Let's see here. Kids can't tan. This one will require tanning salons to ID customers. No minors would be allowed to use a tanning bed. 100% agree. No minors should ever use a tanning bed at all. I mean, one, it's just not good for you. We live in Arizona, too. You can get a tan most of the year, but tanning beds are not good for you. The research shows that. I mean, you see people that use tanning beds for, oh my gosh, they look like a saggy rubber ball. It's not right. But either way, you shouldn't be doing that to your kid. When they get old enough that they can make those mistakes on their own, that's their life. But you as a parent shouldn't be ruining your kid's life. And it's sad that we'd even need a law for that. Here's a good one. HB 2222. Four of a kind. Is it a casino law? No. But it is almost like a winning on a slot machine here. Free tampons for prisoners. This would require the Arizona Department of Corrections to provide unlimited feminine hygiene products to inmates free of charge. No. Sorry. Should they have access to them? Absolutely. But should we pay for them? No. You're an inmate in jail. You should pay all your own costs. Guy, girl, tran, pan, whatever, trisexual, whatever it is, I don't care how you declare yourself. When you're in prison, you should be paying for your own stuff. And then, this one is interesting. Stop lunch shaming. So here we go again with rules. This would put rules on schools to ensure children would not be embarrassed if their parents failed to pay up on lunch accounts. The student would still receive the same lunch as the other students. Now, I absolutely agree with that. I have stipulations, though. I absolutely agree that a kid should not go lunches, whether a kid forgot his lunch. If he has no money, there's no reason why a school can't give out a kid a lunch. Gift them a lunch. If it's one time, no big deal. No worse for it. The school can handle that. That I have no problem with. Now if it's a constant thing and the parents aren't paying and sending the kid with no lunch and the school has to keep them providing it, easy solution. The parent will be required to do some community service in that school, whether it's cleaning up or something, to earn the money for the lunches. That's only fair. This way the burden isn't passed on to other people. And if you really want your kid to eat and you didn't have money, I would volunteer a few hours a week at a school, or an hour here, hour there, clean up on it. I would have no problem doing that if I was in that situation. And if you don't want to do it, then you should be slapped with a fine and possible jail. I'm sorry, I don't have any sympathy if you don't try for your kids. This gives you a good chance, and I would even have, if school's right off the bat, some parents say, look, I don't have much money. I would like my kid to eat this good lunch. What can I do? How can I earn money for that? Boom. And then they're not charging the parent. It's just a return for the lunch. straight up barter, no problem with that. That would be great. I would have no problem with that. Not a problem at all. Let people earn what they do, right? That's pretty much it for that. So when are we going to see the John Podesta indictments? I mean, we know that Clinton and Podesta roam free while, with the Uranium One scandal, the Ukraine, Russia, we all know about that collusion. And Podesta still roaming free. We've heard from the left, this is just the beginning. They're going to attack everybody who's not on their side and go back to the old style 70s bombing. Blah, blah. Fools got to understand this is a different country than the 60s. They think they're going to push people around, just do it if it feels good, do whatever you want, all this nonsense and whatnot. It's a different day and age. And we know if we don't stand up, this country is going to be at a loss. And we're not going to sit quietly during the last election. And they won't. The more you keep on pushing and pushing and pushing, the worse it is. And I'll get back to that kind of thing in a few minutes. Quickly, pretty sad. Everybody knows Buzz Aldrin, the second guy on the moon. His own kids are trying to take his money. They're trying to say he has dementia. He's in decline. And so they want to be, one of his managers, two of his kids want to be in charge of all of his money. So he's countersued them, and he's passed the test saying that he's not lost any cognitive awareness. He's going to take another one to prove it again. And he's also said, these people funneled out $500,000 of my money, into their own bank accounts. And to me, it's always a tough situation. You don't want to see somebody hurt themselves. But there's also a point of just because you don't agree with their decisions doesn't mean you can control their money. Unless he's showing a clear case of a problem, unless he's endangering himself, unless an outside party is taking his money in a way, that's one thing. But in every other sense, it's his money. If he wants to waste it at a track, at a casino, if he wants to do whatever, that's his business. It's not your money. Don't assume you're inheriting everything. It's not your money. That's it. Speaking of not your money, good old Cuomo in New York. Today, New York is just slapping California with its craziness. I mean, California does have Maxine Waters, but New York now has a new communist in town, and then they have the old communist in town. Cuomo wants to disband workers' tips counting as minimum wage salary, or pay, I should say. So basically, everybody will get the minimum wage, which isn't that high in New York, even though living expenses is crazy. And so all these restaurants will have to raise the prices to combat paying every waiter, waitress, bus person, bartender, the minimum wage per hour. So it can't be assumed that they'll make anything on tips. They'll all have to make minimum wage. So your prices are going to skyrocket like crazy, which means less people are going to go out. And the people that do go out are just going to give less tips. I mean, to be honest, because there's going to be less service with the payroll going up that much. You can't assume then you're going to have this much business and then send a waitress home. You have to have the minimum staff on hand and hope that you have a lot of business, because you can't just sit there with all these people on hand. And I know people say everybody should make a living wage, but as a waitress or bartender or waiter, you have those chances. You can choose busier, but you can take care of your customers better and earn that money. And is it 100% guaranteed? No, but you also have times where you make so much more money on holidays and you're getting extra money, or people that, have been your customer good luck day or something, they give you extra money. Those things happen. And now those things will pretty much be taken away if Cuomo gets his way and intervenes in this. Let's see, we found out Loretta Lynch promised the Clinton camp she wouldn't let the FBI go too far with the investigation. Now, this is no news to anybody that's been looking at this for a while. So, nothing new to see here, right? Pretty much. Nothing new to see. So now, going back to the violence that's been spewed from Maxine Toilet Waters to these groups trying to remind us how the 70s were and how they're going to handle stuff with protest bombing and violence and blah, blah, blah. You know, they're going to learn. It's a different day and age. There's more news organizations, more ways for people to get information. There's more people that see the light now. And that's why when they heard Obama and he talked with his voice and everyone thought, oh, it's a man of the people and he's going to do this and that. And when they found out they were lied to, that he was just a snake oil salesman, people learned more and they found out more because there was more ways, more media. You didn't just have to listen to the Anderson blooper, the spritzer, you know, Acosta yelling, and all these insults. You know, these people think they're living legends, but besides themselves and having their own parties, giving each other awards when they get caught, when they're in trouble, the Matt Lauers or the whatever clown that lies, and then they give themselves an award after they get caught lying. They say how great they are, patting each other on the back. They circle around each other. You can have your party, and the rest of everybody else learns from that on the outside. They're getting educated. There's new roads of information. You know, just a quick one I was looking at on Twitter. I seen it was called the Walk Away. Well, I should just say Walk Away. So it just talks, there's people just talking about their stories. Canadian can't vote. I supported Obama twice, looked down in the U.S., fell for the anti-Trump hype, and truly believed that it was a sexist, racist, homophobic, but I'm wrong, and I'll never vote for the left again. And then there's, I'm a registered Democrat until I realized they wanted me beaten down, oppressed, raped, you know, they don't want women to take control of their safety, and, you know, the left hates women more than any group in this country. And it's just on and on, people talking about their stories. Somebody saying they were a once a staunch member of the Democrat Party, but they moved so far away from their values, they had to walk away. And so that's what it is. It's hashtag walk away. And it's just lots of people, you know, just telling their stories about how they walked away. I was an angry young person and firmly believed that I was a victim of American institutions. I listened to progressive voices, hung out with progressive intellectuals, and even voted for Obama in 2008. But then I grew up and chose to walk away. When Obama condoned the killing of police, that's when I walk away. It's just a new movement, walk away. And it's just one of these simple things you see people knowing, and they just know that the ideology, the anger, the hate, they're saying everybody else is angry. They're saying that everybody else is hateful, that everybody else is lying, that everybody else is a war on women, everybody else is a war on blacks. When the liberalism, the leftist party, that's what they are. Doesn't make everybody on the right side right. Doesn't mean they're all great people. You know, you have your bad people in every party, but you see, there were people that were normal people that were Democrats, and these people now, liberalism, it's just way beyond. You know, everybody's always told that they're gay to vote Democrat because they support you. Same thing if you're black, vote Democrat because they support you. Even though Democrats, and women too, right? Women were told vote Democrat because they support you, even though the Democrats were the ones that tried to not vote to give women voting rights, or vote against the end of slavery, or not voting for blacks to have the right to vote. You know, it's just, that's what it is. You're told that to vote because they support you. But you know, at the end of the day, they only support you for political purposes, and even in that, they really don't do much for you. Um, you know, I mean, it's just amazing. You can sit down and read these stories. You know, I walked away from a government that calls me a racist and a bigot because I don't agree with their way of governing. I mean, valid point, very true. You know what? That's what it is. If you don't agree with them, you're automatically a racist, a bigot, a homophobe. You didn't like Obama because he's black, not because he sucked and had some of the worst economic policies in our lifetime, not because he constantly went around and insulted America to other countries. You know, that wasn't it. It was because we were racist. And then if you were black and you didn't like Obama, you were a traitor. You're an Uncle Tom. You know, it's just, here's one. 40-year Democrat and CNN fan. Oh man, I feel bad for you. No longer. I'm appalled at the hate demonstrated by Democrats and the news media. I'm tired of the media swaying the American voters with their own agenda. I just want the facts, and yes, I want true facts. You know, and it says, here's a good one. I walked away. The Democrat Party has been taken over by the left, and the left is power crazy, mentally ill, violent, dangerous, sexually confused, and detests the United States. The Democrats offer nothing positive, just their own projected hatred and rage. Right there, that's a really good one. I mean, that's what you're getting. You're getting a party who has not really any points of their own. It's just, you're a racist and you're nasty and you don't like people. You know, the Democrat Party, the leftist, the loons it is now, all you hear is about plans that are financially not solvent, how we should take care of all these other people that are coming to our country, yet we can't even take care of our own, and they're the ones saying it. And they're saying, put us in charge and we'll be able to fix this. They had been in charge for so long, and they didn't fix it. And the same thing with a lot of people on the right. They have been in charge for so long, and the only thing they fixed was their pockets. You know, they came to do good, and good they did. Or they came to do well, and well they did. But the well they did was well financially, and not well for the people of America. With all the tax money and all the goodwill that the American people have, the giving that we do for charities, leading the world and giving the charities, and just how much we've progressed as a country, being a country a short time, we could be the leader in everything that is good. And all it is the enemy within that holds us back every day. The enemy within that calls us nasty, even though we help more than us. Calls us racist, even though there are countries that they love so much that still have slaves. Calls us backwards in our medical care. Yet the countries they talk about for medical care, all their leaders come here for medical care because they don't want any junk systems they have. You know, but what else can we do or say? My name is Ben Shanneman, and thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Reality Check. And watch for a special World Cup episode, which probably will be Thursday night, and we'll post it up here for you to see. Thanks, and have a safe week.